streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold.
Welcome to Born to Speak to You TV, the show where we speak life into the moments that matter. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and let me say something right away that might make some folks cringe. The word selling. The word selling makes some folks cringe because they think about being manipulated. They think about pressure. They think about fast talking or someone convincing them to buy something that they really don't need. But what if I told you that selling done right is actually an act of service? What if selling wasn't about deals, but opening relationships? What if it wasn't about persuasion, but purpose? How about that? What if selling came from the heart? Today's conversation is for speakers who struggle to sell themselves. It's for entrepreneurs that hate the sales process. It's for leaders who know that they can help people, but they feel conflicted asking for money. And my guest today is someone who is redefining that conversation around sales. He is a professional speaker and trainer. He teaches heart-centered selling, a philosophy that's rooted in authenticity, trust, and service. I'll give you his first name, Scott. Scott believes that when you genuinely care about people, selling becomes natural because you're offering solutions, not pressure. This isn't about tactics, it's about transformation. So if you've ever said, I hate selling, this episode is just for you. And we'll be right back after this short message. Welcome to Born to Speak to You TV, where we're speaking life into the moments that matter. This isn't just a show, it's a movement. It's a space where stories are honored, voices are lifted, and truth has a mic. Each episode, we dive into powerful conversations on identity, on equity, growth, healing, leadership, and the courage that it takes to speak up in a world that often wants us to keep quiet. Whether it's through personal testimony, community impact, or artistic expression, Born to Speak to You is where voices rise and change begin. Our mission is simple: to empower people to use their voice, own their truth, and build bridges of communication and understanding. So, sit back or lean in, because you're about to witness what happens when passion meets purpose. This is Born to Speak to You TV. Let's speak life. And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs. And today this episode is titled Selling with Soul, Why Service Always Comes First. Just imagine leaving a presentation inspired, energized, ready to take action. That's the experience that my guest today, Scott Schilling, delivers. He's known as the authentic connector. Scott brings over 40 years of experience in coaching, sales, marketing, training, impacting hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. He has more than 33,000 live events and stages that he shared with legends such as Colin Powell and Les Brown. Scott blends cutting-edge innovation with powerful old-school connection. His message isn't just informative, it's transformational. Please welcome Scott Schilling to Born to Speak to You TV. Welcome, Scott.
Calvin, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you. Now, as I like to say, let's jump right into the pool. Let's go right in the deep end because that's where the party's at. Okay, let's let's get right into it. We're going to start with foundation and philosophy. Scott, how do you personally define heart-centered selling?
Well, the Webster's definition of sales is the exchange of a product, good, or service for an amount of money or its equivalent. That's the
Mhm.
official definition. But I created my own heart centered selling definition, and that is education through communication without manipulation. Heart centered selling is really becoming a teacher, communicating the features, advantages, and benefits that your products, goods, and services have so that people can understand how their needs, wants, and desires will be fulfilled without manipulation. See, I think people love salespeople because salespeople are serving. What they don't like is manipulators. Manipulators do things for their own reasons. Professional salespeople do things for the customer's reasons. That's the biggest difference.
That is the biggest difference, and we're going to get into how a seller, excuse me, how a buyer realizes that a service is being offered rather than a pressure-filled um,
Mhm.
sales opportunity. So, where did the belief, Scott, that selling is service? Where did that originate for you?
Well, I came to a very early understanding that, in fact, it was about the needs, wants, and desires of the prospect, of the person you're talking to. And if we do a good enough job, people, they tend to get all excited about selling, but it's only four words: identify problem, provide solution. And
Mm,
so when you keep it in that simplicity, many people have great solutions to many problems. The challenge isn't that you offer that solution. The challenge is offering the solution to the right person, the right way, at the right time. And again, I think many times people get so excited about their own solution, they feel their solution will fit any challenge. And we
mm.
all we all know that's not the truth. Anybody and everybody is not a market. There are specific people you can serve. And so when you come in with a heart centered concept like that and the desire to truly serve somebody's challenge, that's when it's a great match going forward.
So, why do so many good people? I'm talking about good people, good-natured people, possibly good salespeople, struggle with selling. I mean, they know what you just said is they're providing a service, they want to provide a service, but they struggle with the selling part of it.
Well, I think that the classic thing that I run into with most of my clients and the things that we turn around and fix is people tend to train their sales force on their own product, on the features, advantages, and benefits, the attributes of their product. They don't teach them the human side of actually serving somebody. In other words, they educate them up on their widget, whatever it might be, but they don't necessarily translate that on how to talk to somebody about that widget. Number one, I suggest you learn your products inside and out. Number two, I suggest you learn your competitors' products inside and out. Then you are a student of the industry. Once you know that, then it's time to really understand people and how to serve them the best. And when you can match all that up, you're now doing service in providing an opportunity for somebody to make their life easier. Who wouldn't want that?
Who wouldn't want that? Scott, I agree with you 1000%. In another life, I spent several years being a used car salesman here in the great state of Illinois. And the training we had was okay. You know, they taught us how to sell. but they never talked about some things that we're talking about now, how to make that connection with the buyer. I took it upon myself, as you just stated, to learn all of the features of the product that I was trying to sell. I took it out on the road, demo rides. I did my homework during the downtimes, but not only that, I learned about the competitors' products as well, and I did very well. I uh, was surprised at the amount of thought and I guess soul that I put into it. But I saw my coworkers, they wasn't doing it like that.
Right.
And they wasn't getting the sales. So let's shift a little bit into mindset shift. Okay. We talked about fear. How does fear, in your opinion, show up in selling conversations?
Well, I think there's fear on the prospect's part. There's concern because somebody has heard that a salesman is going to get them to do what the salesman wants, not what they really need. So that creates a natural fear on the prospect side. But there's actually fear on the salesperson side too that most people don't consider. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of success. So there are fears on both sides of the equation. And I'm a firm believer that the greater your knowledge base, the greater you understand these things, the more you can serve somebody. Again, if somebody is concerned that they had a bad experience with a salesperson at some point in time, many times people try to duck that, right? They don't address it and they don't go. I'm exactly the opposite. I'll ask them, what was it that caused you so many problems? What was it that didn't feel right to you? Is there anything that I'm doing right now that makes you feel that way? Well, no. Okay. Well, so then if I'm not making you feel that way, are you comfortable with this approach? Yeah, I love this approach. Okay. See, we've actually helped them dispel that fear. Had nothing to do with me, had to do with somebody they assigned to the title of salesperson. So again, one of the things that we can do is first help understand that in fact, if somebody has a fear, is just address it and do what you can to serve them. If you were outside of presenting a product, if you were a parent with a child, you would work to comfort that fear. Well, it's no different here. You want to comfort that fear. The other side is also understanding that there's tend to be fear on the salesperson side, fear of rejection or fear of failure. Well, if you do the very best you possibly can, it can't be a failure. And quite frankly, the only person who can reject you is you.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you understand those things, that fear goes away on that side. So again, you cut through the manufactured fences that are between you by being human. Novel concept, actually liking the person that you're talking to, doing what you can to create a relationship with that person. And ultimately, people buy from those they trust. But you can't get to trust without having them know you and like you first. So you've got to share some humanness with them, quite frankly. You have to get to know each other. You have to get to like each other. Some trust develops, and now you can get them comfortable through that trust that there's a solution that will truly serve them. When you do that, that's when an agreement is reached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes the fear that the salesperson has is based on having to meet quotas. Maybe they need to sell to get a certain amount of money in their paycheck that week, things like that. That gets in the way of you trying to sell something. My technique was to learn about the product all that I could, give the prospective buyer all that they needed to know. And then I told them, I'm going to be over here in the corner. If you have any questions, raise your hand. I'll come over and answer your questions gladly. But I'm not going to pressure you. Walk around, kick the tires, do whatever you need to do. I'll be over there. And they seem to appreciate that, Scott. You know.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, when you allow somebody their process, again, you got to walk a mile in their shoes. They're the ones who know why they will take the action and buy. They're the ones who know why they won't take the action and not buy. You know, but typically, if you ask them, they'll tell you. The challenge is most people don't bother to ask them. You know, I mean, people like I said, make selling way too hard. Selling is just the exchange of information. I offer up something for you to consider. You consider it. You either accept it or you counter it. Well, if you counter it, now officially in the sales process, that's called objection handling. So there, again, I think people get, wound up about it when in fact, when you really know, I come out of the Zig Ziglar camp. You can have everything in life you want when you simply help enough other people get what they want. I'm there to help people get what they want. And when you are fully committed to that, it's amazing how easy this transaction truly can be.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned about asking. As part of getting to know the prospective buyer, you ask them what are they feeling. If you can mention past experiences, how can you help them? And then, most importantly, listen. I think that's a piece that I found that some of these people I work with would just miss. They would talk to them, they would ask questions, but they wasn't listening. They wanted to talk. They wanted to show how smart they were, and they wasn't listening to the prospective buyer. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, very much so. I mean, the good Lord is on our side. He gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak. The challenge is that most people, as you said, first of all, they don't ask good quality questions. And if they don't ask good quality, the better quality question you ask, the better quality answer you're going to get. And so if you learn to ask great questions, you'll get great answers. When you get great answers, you can now formulate the path to, again, serve the person you're talking to. Most people, or many people at least, have a predetermined idea of what they're going to do. And quite frankly, I go into it with, where do you want to go with this? This is a dance. You tell me where you want to go and how you want to get there. And we can dance together and it'll be wonderful. Your challenge will be solved. By solving your challenge, my challenge will be solved. But it's done in that order first. Yours first, mine second.
There you go. That's right. Well, we're going to take a little break right here, Scott. We'll be right back in 60 seconds. This is Calvin Gibbs with Born to Speak to You TV, and here's your Born to Rise tips. Sometimes the best things you can do is not think, not wonder, not imagine, don't obsess. Just breathe and have faith that everything will work out for the best. Oftentimes we make ourselves sick, worrying, obsessing, having anxiety about what's going to be. Just have faith that everything is going to come out okay. And usually It does. The things that you're worrying about have no merit in your life. They're there to confuse you, to make you feel weak, to make you feel inadequate. So the best thing you can do is don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Don't wonder about it. Don't obsess over it. Just have faith that everything will work out for the best.
From the streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark.
And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs. My guest today is Scott Schilling, and we are talking about selling with soul, why service always comes first. And Scott, we've had some great conversation to this point. I want to move it into practical application.
Sure.
Let's go back to speakers for a second. How can speakers sell from the stage without feeling salesy, if you will?
Well, again, I think it's a very similar process. You have to deliver something that truly satisfies a need of some sort. The way that you do that from stage is first of all, you have to create trust with the audience. There's many of them, there's only you. So you've got to develop that trust between you and the audience. That comes with your street credentials, but it also comes with your ability to deliver them value. You share a story that they can embrace, that can include them in their potential situation from that time. And basically you then, in your presentation, you offer up potential solutions to their challenges. Again, hopefully you have an idea of what the audience needs are. And then at the end of that conversation, you make a call to action. And that's exactly what it is. It's a call to take action that will ultimately solve their problem, their challenge. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, it will allow you to present something from stage as well, called a sale.
Called a sale. So question for you, what should people stop doing, if there's anything, immediately in their sales approach? What's something that you see all the time that people should stop doing right away?
Well, I think there's a couple different things. One is people end up many times talking too technically. They started at a highly technical level, and they do that more than likely so that they feel like they are the authority. Look how smart I am. I know all this really cool stuff. So I'm going to say a bunch of words that I know that you may or may not know. Well, what happens to your audience is they go, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Would you like to take advantage of this? Uh-uh. And the reason is because they didn't understand a dang thing you said in the first place. I always encourage people to start at a 5th grade level, meaning, and that's not demeaning or diminishing the audience at all. It's simply talking at a simpler level, a simpler language. Because if somebody wants more technical, they'll ask for it, and you can always go more technical. But if you lose them by being technical, you can never win them back. They're gone. So one of the classic things that people do is they tend to talk over the head of their audience, right? They say things and they use nomenclatures. They use big words. They use industry names for things that they're very familiar with because they're an industry expert. The customer is not necessarily an industry expert. So one of the greatest compliments I get is, I've been to 8 different presentations on this topic. This is the first one I actually understood and sounds like it'll solve my problem. So again, that's probably one of the most common errors that people make, is being far too technical before it calls for being technical.
And well, Scott, first of all, I do agree with that. I've heard a lot of speakers or sellers get very technical, and sometimes you need to remember to meet people where they're at, especially if they're not familiar with what you're telling them. You need to speak at a level where everybody can understand and feel comfortable. Um, how about offering discounts on thing on I guess I'm speaking from the stage again, offering discounts to audience members if they act now.
Well, there's nothing wrong with creating scarcity or urgency. I mean, it's a as long as it's legitimate. The fact is, if it's never been sold at the before drop down price, right? The regular price is $10,000, but if you act today, it's $199. There's not a chance that it was ever sold at $10,000.
Right.
So immediately, you're not being legitimate. You're not telling the truth. Now, if it at one time sold for $999 and it's $199 now, if you take advantage of it now, that's a legitimate offer. There's urgency that's been created because that price only lasts while you're there. Here's the other side of that: is there's nothing wrong with doing that. In fact, it's a great way of creating that urgency. It has to be legitimate, though, meaning if you say this is the only place that it's offered at this price, it needs to be the only place that it's offered at this price. In other words, it has to be legitimate, because as soon as credibility goes up, again, it's all about trust. We've now taken all this time and effort to build trust with a prospect. And if all of a sudden we say, today only, it's $199, and somebody says, well, you said that last week, and they were allowed to get it for that price all week long. See, whatever you say needs to be the truth. You can't break your own integrity. And unfortunately, far too often, people break that integrity. A drop down in price, as long as it's legitimate, is a legitimate tool to get people to take action, to encourage them to take action. That being said, then it needs to stay legitimate.
You know, once I heard a speaker say from the stage, I brought 20, let's say, of this product here. I don't want to take it back home to Bug Tussle, wherever they came from. So I'm going to need you all to buy this now so I don't have to lug this back home. What about that type of scenario?
Again, there are ways to create scarcity. There's only 20 left at this price, or there's only 20 that get delivered today, as long as it's legitimate. Scarcity is another tool to create activity, to encourage people, or to another way to look at it is to reward them to take action. Any and all of that is fine as long as it's legitimate. I mean,
Right.
if you brought 200 of them and you say only the first 20 get it, you're not telling the truth. Part of it is telling the truth, right? I mean, it's integrity. Integrity comes from the word one, integer. How you do anything is how you do everything. It's about integrity. So yes, there are techniques, there are process, scarcity, urgency, our sales process. Again, as long as they're legitimate, that's okay. It's when they're not legitimate. It's, I mean, back in the day, we had a product and we said, when we shut down at 5 o'clock on Friday, this price goes away. And it did. You could talk to us Saturday or after 5 o'clock, and you couldn't get that price. So as long as it's legitimate, the challenge is that when it's not, because then you're not integrous from stage or any other way, quite frankly.
What I don't remember about that scenario is, was there a discount associated with buying it now? I remember, basically help me out so I don't have to take these books
yeah.
or whatever it is home. But I don't remember if there was a specific discount associated with that. Probably was. It makes sense that it would, if they really wanted to, move the product, right?
And I've heard people say that same thing. I don't want to take these home, so they're available, things like that. Again, first of all, the Federal Trade Commission keeps you pretty legitimate on that stuff. That's stuff that they don't allow to have happen. If it does happen, that's not a good thing. But the bottom line is, it's about creating a long-term relationship with your customer, in my eyes. And you can't tell a customer, I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, and then not do this, that, and the other thing. It's you need to be consistent and congruent and truthful in what you share with people. If there's an opportunity to save money because they take action now, that's great. Wonderful. Yep. For you've calculated it. They've decided to take the action. Those are all good things, as long as they're legitimate. That's the key.
Okay. Now, before we take our next break, Scott, I'm going to ask you to please, if you can, share a brief story where selling from the heart made a major difference.
Well, thankfully, there have been many. Had a young man that came to a presentation, wanted to take the action, didn't have the money to do it. Said, hey, we have a bunch of free stuff on our website. Would love for you to take advantage of it. We're back in town typically every 90 days. Can we invite you back? He said, that would be awesome. 90 days later, he came back. He said, Mr. Scott, I'm excited about hearing this. I've been studying the information you allowed me to have. I said, are you ready to get started? He goes, oh, yes, I am, but I still don't have the money. I said, well, that's great. There's more information on our website. We're coming back in about 90 days. Can we invite you back? He said, I'd be honored. Came back the next time, came back the next time, came back the next time. This is now 15 months. And he walked into the room and he said, Mr. Scott, you don't have to ask me. I've got the money. But we had helped him over that period of time gain whatever free education we could give him until he was ready to enroll. That's when you know you've accomplished something, because number one, we were legitimate about our pricing and we were truly working to help somebody. And this is somebody who wanted it so badly that they were willing to come back, and it took us 15 months. But in those 15 months, he had also learned a lot, became a student, and then had greater success afterwards. That's selling from the heart. That's making sure that you're doing it for the right reasons so that you help people. And that's when selling truly becomes serving.
Indeed. Thank you for sharing that story, Scott. Wow, that was powerful right there.
Thank you.
We're going to take a little break. We're going to have a comment from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. This is Born to Speak to You TV, and we'll be back in just 60 seconds. Let me give you some straight talk. If you're enjoying this episode, which is called Selling with Soul, Why Service Always Comes First, let me give you some straight talk. If you believe in what you do, if your work helps people, if your service solves problems, then not offering it is actually doing harm. Here's the truth. Selling isn't about convincing someone. It's about giving someone a chance to say yes to transformation. When you don't sell because you're uncomfortable, that's not humility. That's fear, dressed up as politeness. Heart-centered selling means you listen more than you talk. You care more than you convince. You serve whether they buy it or not. And if someone says no, hey, you honor that, because real service demands choice. So stop saying I'm not good at selling. Start saying I'm here to serve. And I trust the people will lean in. The right people will come. They'll lean in. I'm Calvin Gibbs, and that's the Straight Talk with Calvin. Hi, this is Calvin Gibbs with Born to Speak to You TV, and here's your Born to Rise tip for today. You're not stuck. You're just committed to certain patterns of behavior that in the past may have worked for you. But guess what? You've grown past those patterns of behavior. Now they're more harmful than they are helpful. And the reason that you can't move forward is because you keep applying an old formula to a new level in your life. That old formula, that is for where you were. But you've moved on to another level. And it's time to have a new formula, a new solution. So change the formula and get a different result. If you keep doing what you did when you were there, it's not going to work out. You've moved on to another level. Change the formula and step into your purpose. You were born to rise.
From the streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark.
And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs. My guest today is Scott Schilling. We've been talking about selling with soul and why service always comes first. I want to move the conversation along to resistance and objections. Okay. If you're selling, you're going to have both of those. How do you help clients release guilt around charging for their work?
Well, I think part of it is having them truly understand the value of what they do. A lot of it is reframing. That's a fancy way of saying changing their mindset, how they look at things and how they think of things. If you provide value to money is simply a tool for the exchange of value. You give somebody an idea, a thought, a solution. They give you money in return because you have solved their problem. There's an exchange of value. And one of the ways that I do it with my coaching clients is I actually, as opposed to having them look at money, is look at the bills themselves as being certificates of appreciation. Mm-hmm. So when we reframe in our head, if I provide you value, or when I provide you tremendous value, you in turn provide me value with certificates of appreciation. The more value I deliver to you, the more certificates of appreciation you deliver to me. We kind of get the money hoax out of the way from that side. I do a lot in the holistic disciplines, say with chiropractors. Chiropractors spend 14 quarters, thousands upon thousands of dollars learning their expertise. A lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. But many times when they make a chiropractic adjustment, it's a matter of seconds or maybe even a minute at the most. And then all of a sudden there's this $45, $65, $85 bill for what was actually hands-on a minute. Well, you're not paying for the minute. You're paying for the 14 quarters and the hours and the price and the years to know how to do that in a minute. So again, it's a concept on both sides. Part of it is educating your customer on the value of solving their problem. The other is with the person that is giving that value, getting them to understand how to claim appropriate value, right? If somebody solves a problem for you, and you've heard this over and over throughout your lifetime, I'll pay anything to get ... right? Well, that's because that's how valuable that solution is to you. That's why you would be willing to pay anything. I think when you match the appropriate value delivered with the value received, that's when everybody's really happy. And the point is, if you want to make more money, provide more value.
That's right. Amen to that. So, Scott, we're going to move into our last question. This is in the area of legacy and leadership, sir.
Got it.
If viewers remember just one thing from this episode, what would you want it to be?
I think the greatest thing is that we all have the opportunity to serve one another. And quite frankly, I think that's why we're on this planet to begin with. I think that's what the human race is designed to do, is to lift each other up with respect, honor, and dignity. And respect is how we treat another. Honor is how we lift that other person up. When both parties do that well, dignity is experienced by all. If I wanted somebody to remember something out of this, is treat each other with respect, honor, and dignity, and truly lift people up for the greater good for all of us.
And speak life into the moments that matter. Scott,
Absolutely.
I want to thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. There's been so many nuggets of wisdom and just humanity that you shared with our listeners today. So thank you for that. And you can see there on the screen, if you want to connect with Scott, you can reach him at scott@scottschilling.com or by phone. And the number was just on the screen, was the 817 area code 239-7732.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you again, Scott. And please feel free to come back anytime. I'd love to have you again and go into another section of deep conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you all.
My pleasure. We'll be right back after this commercial. This is Born. And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and we've had a fantastic conversation. Scott, thank you for this conversation. This episode is called Selling with Soul, Why Service Always Comes First. I want to thank Scott again for the conversation, not just for the tools or the insight, but for the reminder. The reminder that selling doesn't have to feel heavy. It doesn't have to feel transactional. And that when it's done with integrity, selling is actually an extension of who we are. When you share what we share today, speaks directly to the people who care deeply, the speakers who wrestle with their worth, the entrepreneurs who know that they can help, but they hesitate to ask, and the leaders who want to serve without feeling that they're taking. And here's what I hope that everyone takes with them tonight. If your work changes lives, if your message solves problems, if your service brings clarity, healing, or growth, then offering it is not selfish. It's responsible. It's the thing that you should to be doing. You don't have to convince. You don't have to chase. You don't have to perform. You just have to show up with honesty, listen with intention, and serve from the heart. To everyone watching, your voice matters, your story matters, and your service matters. And the way you choose to serve through your voice matters more than you realize. If today's conversation spoke to you, then don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share this episode of Born to Speak to You TV with someone who needs permission to use their voice. Drop a comment and tell us what part of your vision are you ready to speak life into. You can scan the QR code where you can see all the episodes of Born to Speak to You TV and connect with us on Facebook and LinkedIn and continue the conversation. And remember, you were not born to stay silent. You were born to speak. And this is Born to Speak to You TV, where we don't just talk about communication, we talk about connection. We don't just sell ideas, we serve people, and we always speak life into the moments that matter. So thank you for spending time with us. I want to thank DFN Broadcast Studios for giving me this opportunity. And until next time, lead with heart, speak with purpose, and never forget, you were born to speak, and I am born to speak to you.
Of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold. Now he walks in purpose, pure and true. He was born to speak to you. He's got that rhythm in his truth, that fire in his flow. Speaking life into the moment, watch it grow. Every phrase, every beat, a breakthrough cue.